Hi guys, welcome to my channel ZIBAKERIZ, where I show you how to create beautiful decorated cakes, cupcakes, and so much more. So let's get started right away. Over here I baked half a sheet cake. You can also use leftover cake tops if you have as well, and you're also going to need some buttercream. We're just going to wear some gloves, and we're just going to mix all of these cakes together so you have a nice crumb to work with. So if you do work with super hot cake, you don't have to add in any buttercream, but I did let my cake cool down before I did this just because I wanted to add in buttercream so it has a nice flavor to it as well. So over here, once it's nice and fine and crumbled, I'm just going to add in some of that buttercream. So you just want a little bit of that buttercream added to your cake just so it can hold its shape nicely. So you just want to give everything a nice mix. And you'll notice the more that you start mixing it, the more it can actually form a shape. I wanted to add a little bit more buttercream, even though it was holding its shape nicely. I just wanted it to be a little bit more compact together. So you just added a little bit more buttercream, and now you just want to form it in the shape that you want. So I'm trying to create an egg shape for Easter. So once you're happy with the shape, you just want to place it on top of a cake board. So over here I do have an 8-inch cake board, and I've placed my egg on top, and now I'm just going to add some buttercream at the base of it. So over here I have some American buttercream, and you're also going to need a spatula. So this is an icing spatula, offset spatula, and I'm just going to place a little bit of that buttercream on the base just to hold it nice in place when I add the crumb coat so it doesn't move around too much. So a crumb coat is basically a thin layer of buttercream to go all around your cake, and it basically locks in any of those crumbs in your buttercream, preventing your crumbs from getting in your final coat of buttercream. So now taking my offset spatula, I've went from the bottom up to have a nice thin layer of buttercream, and now taking this acetate sheet, I'm just going to smooth out my cake. So you want to turn your turntable with one hand, and then you want to smooth off the cake with the other. Take off the excess buttercream from your acetate sheet and keep repeating until you have a nice smooth finish. And then on the edge, I like to use my finger just to kind of get a nice smooth base as well. Place the cake in the fridge for about 10 to 15 minutes until it's nice and firm to the touch, just like you can see over here. Now we're going to work on our final coat. So over here I got this yellow buttercream with some yellow shade. I've added a coupler as well as a Wilton tip number 12, which is an open round tip. And I got this beautiful soft yellow shade using just a little bit of yellow gel-based food coloring, and you're also going to need a bench scraper to smooth off the cake as well. So you want to start from the bottom, and using one hand you're going to turn the turntable, and with the other hand you want to hold your piping bag nice and straight up, and once you reach the top you just want to kind of go in a spiral direction. Then using your bench scraper, again you want to start from the bottom and gradually move your bench scraper towards the top while you keep turning your turntable. And then you want to take any of that excess buttercream and take that out into a bowl, and then we're going to take our acetate sheet again, and then we're going to spin our turntable with one hand, and holding the acetate sheet we're going to smooth off the cake with the other. I like to use the acetate sheets, and that's what's going to give me a nice smooth surface to work with, just because we can make it a little bit more flexible until you have a nice clean finish. Again, we're going to place that into the fridge for 10 to 15 minutes until it is nice and firm to the touch. Now we're going to work on getting our transfer onto our cake. So over here I have traced this printed design from my computer. Just make sure that you measure your parchment paper before you trace your design so it fits the same size as your cake. And then we're just going to secure this parchment paper in place using some pins. Make sure they are nice and sterilized before you put them in your cake, or you can use a toothpick if you want. Now I'm just going to trace my design onto my cake using a toothpick. You want to add just enough pressure that you can feel that it is going inside and making like a mark, but you do want to keep in mind that it is nice and firm. If you feel like it's getting soft, just place it back in the fridge. Now that I've removed the pins and I've transferred everything onto the cake, I'm just going back and creating an outline where I can see it. So the gel-based food coloring you're going to need is some green, yellow, some red, blue, light blue, black, brown, and some white gel-based food coloring, as well as some paint brushes. So make sure they are food safe, and they've never been used on anything else before, so I've only used them for painting. So now we're just going to start painting on our cake. So I'm going to start off with some of that brown gel-based food coloring. And you also want to make sure that you do have a little bit of water and paper towel next to you so that you can keep cleaning your brushes and tapping any of that excess paint onto your paper towel. So I like to start off with my bunny and just kind of, add some of that color. And you can see that I have made this super fast, but in real time, and even this is a little bit sped up. It took a lot longer, but you can see I'm going stroke by stroke on my rabbits or my bunny's hair, so just so that it looks a lot more realistic. This is a process that takes a lot more time. It's not too difficult. You just want to make sure that you are following the shade. So I do have a reference image in the back that you can see that I am trying to follow. Now I'm just going back in real time and showing you that I am painting the eyes. So to make it look a lot more realistic, you can see that I'm going back and adding in that pupil with the white dot, and then adding any of those lighting under the eye. This is what's going to bring the bunny to life. So you can see that I'm adding a little bit of white gel food coloring for that. Then for the ears, I've mixed in some of that red and white gel food coloring, and I'm just going back in and adding any of those darker shade for the bunny's hair, making sure that I go stroke by stroke just to give it a nice realistic look to the bunny. So you just want to make sure that you are taking your time with whatever painting you're doing, and you looking at the different types of colors that are being used. So I do want to mention that if you guys are finding this kind of interesting, I am going to be sharing how to do painting in one of my online courses as well. So if that is something that is interesting to you, you can sign up to my email list at www.ZIBAKERIZ.com. So you can see that I've already started working on the additional details aside from the bunny. So I'm working on all the florals all around the bunny. So you can see that there are different techniques that you want to keep in mind. So you want to make sure that you're holding your paintbrush nice and close to the tip. This gives you a lot more control when you are painting. And you want to make sure that you are mixing the right colors together to achieve certain colors. So obviously, if you want to make something darker, you would want to add more of that black or brown shade to it. If you want to make something lighter, you want to add a little bit more of that white to it. So now I'm just going ahead and painting all of those Easter eggs and adding all of the additional details on those eggs as well. And you can see that this is a very fun process. It is, for me, very therapeutic, so I do enjoy painting. It's not very difficult once you understand color mixing and how to achieve certain colors and how to hold your paintbrush and use those strokes to achieve it. You want to make sure that you do have patience when it comes to this, because it can take quite a bit of time. So this video is clearly sped up a lot just so that you guys didn't get bored. So in real time, it obviously took me a lot longer to get the final product, but it is something that can be achieved. You can start off by creating a smaller image if you feel, and then trace that on. And you can also have fun with your kids if you want to do something like this for Easter. You can just bake a cake on the same day, add some buttercream, and then you guys can actually paint an Easter design on your cake. So add stripes, zigzags, and have fun with the process. So you can see in real time I'm painting the butterfly now. So again, I achieved this color mixing some of that red gel food coloring and a little bit of white gel food coloring to get this nice pink shade. And then you want to go back and add a little bit more of that red, and that's what's going to give me those darker edges. And then going back with a little bit of white to make it a little bit lighter in shade. So it's not very difficult, but it is a process. At this point, you can see all of the colors that I've mixed together to achieve different colors. That's what's on my palette. Just make sure that your palette is food safe. You also want to keep a separate bowl with some water and keep additional paintbrushes and paper towels with your paintbrushes, so you can keep tapping your paintbrush so you can get rid of any of those excess paint off of your paintbrush. So again, I'm speeding up the process and going back and adding in any of those final details that I have missed. So you can see I'm going back and adding in a flower, as well as going back and adding in any additional details like those leaves. So I'm adding in back with that purple flower that I've created. Again, you want to go back and add any extra additional leaves by using some green food coloring. And if you see any other additional details, just go back and add those in now. So I'm at my last detail, which is basically adding in this final little white flower that I saw at the end. At this point, I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. Now I created this green grass food coloring using buttercream, using some green gel food coloring, a little bit of brown, and a little bit of yellow, and I got this beautiful realistic green grass color. So I've added that into a piping bag fitted with a coupler, and I'm just going to hold my piping bag nice and straight and add that on the base of my cake board. Two offset spatulas, and I'm going to be using my tapered spatula, the one that gets a little bit more narrow towards the edge, just so that I have a little bit more ease when it comes to filling in the gaps closer to the Easter egg. So then once you have applied it, you're just going to spread it as close to the egg as possible, and then I'm just going to smooth it off using the turntable with one hand, and then using the offset spatula, holding it on an angle until I get a nice smooth finish. So now the piping tip that I'm using is a Wilton tip number 233, which is a grass tip, which has a bunch of these little tiny dots. This is what's going to give us our grass on top of that green base that we've created. So you want to hold your piping tip a little bit farther away from the edge, not too close to the egg, just because I don't want to cover the egg shape. You want to apply pressure and lift up. You want to do this all around the cake wherever you see that green base that we've created. This is not a difficult process. You just have to have fun with it. Just apply pressure and lift up. And this is what's going to give us that realistic grass effect all around our Easter egg. So just apply pressure and lift up. It's okay whichever direction it's going in, just because it's going to make the grass look a little bit more realistic. So once I'm happy with all of the grass that I've created all around the edge of that green border that we've created, now I'm just going to add a nice final touch by adding in some of these mini Easter eggs. These are these mini chocolate Easter eggs, and I'm just going to arrange them on top of the grass. So I'm just going to start off by adding in one, which is the green one, and then another one, which is the yellow one. If you don't like the way certain one is placed, so you can just remove it, fill it back with some grass, and then you can add another one the way you like to arrange it. So I'm just going to do that on the other side as well. So wherever you feel like the arrangement looks nice, you just want to do that, and then go back and fill in some grass here and there, just so that it looks like the eggs weren't placed or arranged, but they were there from before, kind of hitting in between the grass. So again, you just want to go back and apply pressure and lift up and cover some of the Easter eggs with some of that grass. At this point, I'm really happy with the way this Easter egg painted cake turned out. And I hope you found this video tutorial helpful, and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I hope to see you guys in my next video.